Minister Mantashe, good afternoon. We welcome you to CNBC Africa and thank you for your time. I wanted to begin by hearing your thoughts on that decision to deny Karpowership those environmental approvals, which of course are a key part of your emergency plan to provide power. Where does that leave you and what is your position?
No. My responsibility is to execute the task at hand. I was given the task to provide 2,000 megawatts on emergency procurement. We looked through all the proposals and we agreed on that. Now, among them were the Karpowerships, three of them, Saldanha, Kucha, and Richards Bay. Now, this contradiction is going to continue over a long period between clean and energy security. It's a natural contradiction, and if we don't manage it well, it may actually make us to be flat-footed. That's my view. I will understand from my colleague what is the issue.
Sure. Okay, so we will await further developments on that front. But I wanted to say to you as well, congratulations, Minister, on tripling that self-generation ceiling to 100 megawatts. I think it's been well received all around. Now, many of us were wondering, especially as we battled power cuts, what took you so long? Was it a difficult decision to make, Minister?
It is a difficult decision in one aspect. In the way that it was coming, we're put under pressure to allow 10 megawatts. Once we agreed on 10 megawatts, then a number 50 was thrown at us. And when the number 50 thrown at us, we wanted to understand what the logic is. Because we asked a simple question: do we want to deregulate energy, or do we want to deregulate renewables? What is it? That question has not been answered up to now. But when they said they want this 50 and the president was convinced, I asked a simple question: why 50? 3 applications of mining companies before me are above 50, 184 megawatts, 170, another one 100 megawatts. And I said, then give them 100 so that you accommodate those mining companies as well. It's not just a question of a number.
To what extent, Minister, did politics intervene in that decision and make it more difficult to pass on? We know, of course, part of the union movement would have been opposed to this.
No, politics are politics. They're part of life. But they don't interfere with decisions like those. But what is more important is if you deregulate energy, that decision must come up front. Then you deregulate it. Half the time we're told that people must get more. Actually, for self-generation for own use, there's no limit, there's no need for a license already.
Right. Is that for both individuals and companies?
Self-generation for own use, there's no need for license.
For individuals and companies, Minister?
Companies and anything, you can have 1,000 megawatts if you want to.
Wow, okay.
If it's for own use. Yeah. Where we had an issue to argue is people who want to open generation plants for trading with energy.
Yeah.
And our question was that, how do you trade without a license? Is that workable? And that remains a question, but we'll manage it as we go.
Yeah. Let's talk about the issue of deregulation. What is the government's position on that? Are there impediments to deregulation? So you bring in private players and you regulate them as you would regulate any other company that wants to operate within South African shores?
Deregulation is opening a free-for-all. That's it. And to just open, people can do as they wish. They can just walk into an ACE and build a power station and generate it. Fine. If it is allowed in law, we can do it. But to just wake up one day and deregulate will not work properly because it will cause chaos in the energy space.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that it will not, because we were given the task to ensure that regulations are clear within the next 2 months. And that is going to happen We'll have clear regulations. These are the regulations. You trade, you connect to the transmission. These are the conditions to do that, and you can trade. We'll do
Yeah.
that within 2 months.
Yeah, so that's on the provision of emergency power, Minister. But what about long term? Is deregulation on the table at all?
Nobody has put on the table. Every time you ask, do you want deregulation? All of them run for cover, because that's my question. You want to deregulate. If you want to deregulate, just give us the directive, we deregulate, we open it, pay free for all, everybody works in.
Yeah.
But you can't deregulate a technology. If you are deregulating, you'll have to deregulate energy.
Minister, on the various steps that you have taken, we have had full conversations around nuclear power. We have spoken about the need for a transition from coal. I wanted to know if there's been a rethinking, if like, of the South African Integrated Resource Plan. Where does that stand? And what are the numbers inside that resource plan now?
IRP is so clear and so concrete. We are giving 30,000 megawatts to renewables.
That
We give
stands.
3,000. Yes, yes. We give 30,000 to renewables. We give 3,000 to gas. We give 150 to coal. We give 2,500 to nuclear or hydrogen. But and the other one that makes is that renewables, good as they are, at this point in time, they don't have base load. They need to be anchored on others. Actually, there is an argument that is emerging internationally that the success of renewables will depend on partnering renewables with nuclear. In South Africa, the drive is to do away with any other technology and only leave renewable. It's a mistake that was committed by Texas. And when Cyclone came, they were in darkness. And our view is that let's look at through it. We're a developing economy. We're not developed. Uh, uh, we cannot just drive without looking into a journey. Transition is a journey. You will take your journey. You will come to a point where you come to a predominantly green energy,
Yeah.
but travel that journey.
Yeah, I'm going to come back and talk about that transition. You've just answered a question that we got from Lesejo Moloko. He asked the question, Dear Minister, is nuclear still part and parcel of SA's energy mix? If so, why is it not publicly mentioned by you or the President, but IPPs? And I think you have answered the question. Nuclear is still part of it. Do you have any time frames in terms of how that will be brought in?
And I mention it all the time.
You have just mentioned it, yes, yeah. But do you have time frames, Minister?
All the time. Now, the IRP is up to 2030. So within that period, we must be starting to see a movement. You know, the question of energy is one of the most principal process that you don't allow one process to be handled by one person at the end. We issue requests for information to people in the open market, test the market. We give ministerial determination. We issue requests for proposals, and people make their proposals. So that is what we're going to do with all of them.
Sure. Let's move on and talk about the transition that you earlier alluded to, Minister. What is South Africa's position on the transition to clean energy? I asked a question in particular given the recent pronouncements that we have had, including from the IEA recently, where it was suggested that there be discouragement of government funding for fossil fuels. Where does South Africa stand on that, given our heavy reliance on coal?
No, not only on coal. Fossil fuel include oil, include gas, includes everything. My own view is that oil and gas are going to be part of this transition. They are going to be game changer in our energy mix. Even coal, the reason that we gave a provision of 1,500 megawatts on coal, we want to experiment with clean coal technologies. If they work, then we can use that resource. It's abundant in South Africa. We can't just throw it away.
But what are the timeframes, Minister? Because what we are hearing appears really to put South Africa in a position where it could risk a future in which it is penalized for continuing to use fossils.
Now, actually, a number of major economies agree on a managed transition. That includes China, that includes the US, by the way, and quite a number of others, Australia, which is rich in coal. They all argue for a managed transition. I happen to appreciate that reality because in South Africa we have 15 power stations. 15 of them are coal-generated power stations, and therefore, if we think that we can just switch them off, will breathe fresh air in darkness. And my argument is, let's manage that transition. As we switch off Komati, we must have a concrete plan on how to replace that energy capacity. Right. As we switch off Grootfontein, you must have a plan on how to replace that energy capacity. As you switch out Hendrina, same. And you can go to Camden. Those are the foremost power stations that are actually going to be in the front of the queue for decommissioning. But we cannot just be excited by decommissioning without looking into replacement of that energy capacity.
So what have you been saying to those who have been vociferously calling for a concrete plan to get rid of fossil fuels, especially the messaging that has come, as I said, from organizations such as the IAE?
IAE, National Energy Association, has issued this a week ago. We're still going to make sense of their pronouncement because they released a research document last year on the future of coal, and they predicted that coal use is going to be on the increase until at least 2024. Now, that was their research. We will check with them what has gone wrong with that research. What is it now that they come to? The problem with energy, it has been politicized. Heavy lobbying is a determining factor on energy. And my own view is that once you determine policy purely on the basis of heavy lobbying, you are risking that policy because you'll take other decisions under duress. For example, the decision not to grant environmental certificate for power ships, I'm sure it's a pressure from lobbyists. But if they have taken it, it's the risk we're going to take all the time.
Sure. Let's
we're discovering gas. We're discovering gas in our shores. Total discovered gas, South Antonica. We are having 34 bottles in the laboratory to test if the shale gas in Beaufort West is a reality or not. They're in the laboratory right now. We're discovering that gas. If they will say we must set it alight, I will watch that with interest.
We shall also be watching it with interest, no question about that. Clean coal, Minister, is there a national strategy around trying to make sure that we can continue to use coal with the development of this technology? I do remember having an interview with one of the companies listed on the JSE, and they were talking about this, but it sounded small scale. I wanted to know if, as a department, as a government, this is something that you have thought about and you're putting resources and money into.
We sent a team that spent some days in the United States to see it in action. We've gone to Russia to see it in action. Poland is big in clean energy technologies. And we're looking into all those alternatives and hope to bring them here because we have huge coal deposits. And our view is that you don't set a resource you have alight. You develop it, you try to find alternative uses until you discover them. So investment in research, we're busy with that. Our team is working hard, led by the Council for Geoscience.
Yeah. Minister, one of the other issues I wanted to tackle before we end the interview is the issue of pricing renewables. Allegations have been made by some of the unions that coal is actually subsidizing the price for renewables because they are not yet at a point where their prices are competitive. As a department, what is the position of the government on that front?
Godfrey, bid window 1 was selling a unit at 425, and Eskom bought at 425, sold at 89 cents. Bid window 2, it was 294 cents, bought from the renewables at 294, sold at 89 cents. Bid window 3 was 174, bought at 174, sold at 89 cents. And bid window 4 came very close, it was at 107. And therefore that was there. My argument was that the government was actually subsidizing a technology they wanted to attract to the economy. But when they give Eskom 69 billion, they must not call it a bailout. It must describe clearly that it is the subsidy for this technology that we wanted so badly in the economy. And actually, 89 cents was coal generated. Actually, the cheapest is nuclear, Godfrey. Quebec is giving Eskom energy at 40 cents a unit.
Sure. Okay, that answers that. One more issue. Municipal debts and the recovery of Eskom. Clearly, Minister, without that 46 billion or however many billions that is owed to Eskom by the municipalities, that recovery is going to be difficult. When are we going to see settlement of this? I'm making the point that this is a political decision that ought to be taken from within. I don't know whether it's party structured or within the cabinet system. What is your position?
I would advise you to invite Minister of Public Enterprise on that. But I'm sitting in the political task team, Eskom. That issue is on the table, dealing with individual municipalities. Forefront case is Maluta Pofung, which has given up his right to collect any debt to Eskom, and therefore money go to Eskom account and give them change after paying the debt. But it's widespread. You know, I went to Mtata one day. A person was saying to me, here we have two systems. That over there, that is Eskom, that is municipality. I buy energy for 100 rand.
Right.
In the Eskom office, I get it for 71. I get 71 units for 100 rand.
Sure.
In the municipal office, I get 48 units for 100. So the difference between those units was reflecting the heavy high markup that the end consumer pay.
Yeah.
The problem in the discussion in South Africa, we talk about all the technical issues. The end consumer is ignored, and they pay dearly because nobody represents them. And we've introduced that because that, listen, we can't only talk about licensees, we must talk about the end consumer, because that end consumer, who when I go to Gala in my home, there's all the huts connected with electricity.
Sure.
But you still go and collect wood, coal, paraffin, because the electricity is too expensive for space heating and clean cooking.
Sure. Certainly needs to be sorted out. One more question from Millicent Hadebe. She's asking, Minister, what was discovered at Mnambiti? Was it crystals or was it gems?
No, in Mnambiti, geologists went there, tested, and they said it's not a diamond, it is quartz crystals. They have economic value much lower than diamonds. That's why they are being assisted to put them properly, because other economies use them for many things. Others use them for praying. So quartz crystals have been found in